Welcome to Colonie TV, the governmental educational channel for the town of Colonie.
Hello and welcome to Real Conversations with Lisa and Susan. I'm Susan.
And I'm Lisa. Welcome.
Today we're going to be talking about nanotechnology. It's a buzzword that you can't go more than a couple of days without hearing, especially here in the capital region. And so we were thinking, let's talk about what it is, because it seems to be pervasive in the conversation about Tech Valley and what's happening here in the capital region economically.
And if you're anything like me, don't shut your TV off when you hear the word nanotechnology.
No, because it's fun and it's interesting.
And it's exciting. And that's what I liked about doing the research for the show and speaking with our guest prior to the show, is there's amazing applications that the sky really is the limit.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. So make sure you stay tuned and listen.
Well, I don't know about you, Lisa, but I'm a big Star Trek fan. I probably mentioned that on the show before. And, I buy into that whole, utopian future that was presented in that. I'm a believer. And as I did more and more research on this subject, and it occurred to me, hey, maybe it's not fiction, because
yeah.
Some people who are really in a position to know are saying that nanotechnology is really what's going to be the breakthrough, not just here in the capital region, but globally and, for mankind. I'll say the big word, for mankind.
Yeah,
it's astounding.
I think that's really the exciting part, is what's possible. I think we've only begun to scratch the surface of what's
and here
possible.
on Real Conversations, we just like to talk about very trivial things. So we're going to be
world peace,
peace, alternative fuels,
saving the planet, just little things,
just
like
minor
that.
things.
Yeah.
So we're going to take on a discussion about nanotechnology. We have a wonderful guest from the Nanoscale College.
Yes, and so we're going to take a short break right now. We're going to come back and we're going to talk about not only what it is, but the applications of it. And so stay tuned. It's going to be very exciting. Welcome back. We're so happy to have you with us, and we're really excited about the show today, because as we said, we're going to be talking about nanotechnology, and we have a wonderful guest who's here to talk about what it is in a lot of the applications. Mm-hmm. And it is Shadi Sandvik, and she is an associate professor with the College of Nanoscience and Nanoscale Science and Engineering, and as well, she is a SUNY Provost Fellow. Did I get all that right?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Thank
you so much for being with us.
Oh, thank you for having me. This is exciting.
Yes, it's a great topic. So if we could just start tell us a little bit about you. Like, how did you come to be so knowledgeable about this? And then we'll start talking, get into the nitty gritty of
So I've been with CNSE, College of Nanoscale Science and Engineering at SUNY Albany for about 10 years now. Mm-hmm. And in the past decade, I have been very fortunate to be in an environment that really cares about research and really cares about such problems. I mean, solving great problems like how do we take advantage of, how do we understand what nanotechnology is, mm-hmm. what is nanoscale, mm-hmm. how can we take advantage of the properties at that level and make better devices that go into applications that makes people's lives better.
And that's really another reason why we wanted to cover this, because our show is all about making people's lives better. That's our commitment in doing the show, is that people will have a more enhanced life by having watched it.
Yes.
So it's completely consistent
Yeah,
with the
very good.
theory of the
That's
show.
great, because nanotechnology really impacts our lives at so many different levels. I mean, sometimes we don't even think about it.
Before we get into the applications, can you just give us a very basic understanding of what is nanotechnology, what is nanoscale, what does that mean?
Absolutely. So one thing that CNSC is great in that we have fantastic outreach program.
What letters did you just say?
CNSC, and that stands for College of Nanoscale Science and Engineering.
Okay.
Our outreach program, it's outstanding. And we reach out to kids from elementary school, honestly. I mean, middle school, elementary school, K through 12. We bring them in every year.
You do a lot of tours.
We do.
Right, yeah.
We really serve thousands of people from the capital region, from the entire New York state, that they come, they get a tour. But when I give my presentation to our middle school kids, and I love middle school kids because they just get so excited about things, I tell them, okay, just think about the thickness of your hair. If you cut your hair, just imagine that you're doing that.
One hair.
One hair, the width of it, cut it into 8 pieces, take one of those pieces, cut it into 10 pieces, take one of those pieces, cut it into 1,000 pieces. Wow. Take one of those pieces, and that's a nanometer.
Wow.
So the thickness of your hair approximately is about 800,000 nanometer. And I tell them, can you see the thickness of your hair? And of course, everybody can.
Yes.
And then I say, can you see a nanometer after you cut it so many times? And they can't.
At what point can we no longer see it?
You can see, so you are able to see the particles in air, right? I mean, if it is a sunny day and you're looking, you probably can see the particles. And these particles, they are about probably 10 micron. And each micron is about 1,000 nanometer. Wow. So you can see the particle. And then when you want to look at a red blood cell, you have to look under microscope.
Yeah. Right.
But that red blood cell is actually about, red blood cell is about a micron or 2, or about 5 micron. Mm-hmm. So you can see it. Mm-hmm. Now, if you keep cutting it, you can still see under microscope down to about a micron and a half. So if you cut the blood cell into 5 pieces, you can still see the one piece. But then if you go below that, then you can no longer use optical microscope that we all know how to use.
Right.
Then you go to something else that's called electron microscope. So again, the way that I have the student imagine is that, okay, tell me how your eyes see, how do you see things? You see things because light gets reflected off of objects, come into your eye, and you can see it.
Right.
That's the same thing. Microscope works the same thing too. Light gets reflected off and you can see it. Now, that means that you can see things when and now we are getting into more electromagnetic terms, that the wavelength or the length of that light, the wavelength of that light is comparable to the length of the object you want to see.
I see.
Now, if you're going to nanometer, now you have to use something else, some other excitation that its length is comparable. That's when you go to electrons.
So we've developed some sort of lens to see
Absolutely.
it.
And what's the advantage? Like, just explain, like, what's the advantage of having things so teeny tiny?
Yeah, what's the big deal? I mean, why?
I know. So sometimes people say, okay, well, if we cut things small, then we can call it nanotechnology. Or that's not really it. It's not just for because you cut things very, very small and it goes to, like, say, 1 micron. If you cut the blood cell into, like, 5 pieces and then you take a piece, you can't really call that nanotechnology because it's still pretty big. Yeah. What does it mean? That means that that piece, that 1 micron piece, still behaves the same as this larger piece.
I see.
But if you keep cutting it and you go to 100 nanometer now, go less than 100 nanometer, go 10 nanometer. Suddenly the properties of that thing, that object, it's very different.
Ah,
Okay.
There are objects that they become much stronger. For example, graphite, the pencil that we use, we put it down. I mean, it's very, very soft.
Yes.
The soot, I mean, kind of think about it.
A lead pencil.
Yes.
It's graphite.
But then if you take one of these layers that you just put down on the paper, just imagine that you could take one of those layers, one of them, and then roll it onto itself to create a tube.
Yes.
Now you have something that's called carbon nanotube. And this carbon nanotube is stronger than steel.
No.
Yes.
Wow.
Oh my God, who would think that the size of something
Yes.
would change its behavior?
Absolutely.
And because it changes its behavior,
Change.
it opens up a whole new world of possible usages,
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
And what maybe was an unusable resource now becomes really valuable,
It's
right?
very valuable.
Because, if it's just a lead pencil, it's not so valuable. But
Yeah,
if it's
exactly.
stronger than steel,
Yes.
and we all know what steel has cost,
Yes.
and it's become more and more difficult to import and whatnot.
You asked about nanotechnology, and I think one thing to just always that's fascinating is being able to manipulate at the atomic level. For example, this carbon is a really good example because carbon, depending on how the atoms are sitting, can be diamond or it can be soot.
Yes.
Right?
That's right.
And that's just because how they are sitting. So if we are able to go at that atomic level and then force these atoms to sit in an arrangement that we want, now we are basically manipulating their functionality.
That's so exciting because that then leads to the application.
Yes.
So tell us some of the things you're aware of these exciting applications.
Applications, my goodness, it's just, there are just so many of them. For example, transistors, our phones, our smartphones. I mean, one thing that we were talking about.
Computer chips.
Computer chips,
Okay.
yes. Computer chips. What are computer chips? Computer chips are made up of millions and millions and millions of something called a transistor. And transistor is really nothing but a switch. Language of computer is just 0, 1, 0, 1. That's the language of computer. And that's basically a switch turning on, off, on, off. Now, if you can pack more of these switches into a smaller area, what are we doing? We are making it faster. We are adding more functionality. If the amount of functionality that's packed into that tiny area, it's amazing.
It is.
Yeah.
And it just keeps impressing me more and more and
Yes.
more. I mean,
Yeah. At some point, as much as I love science and innovation, I have to say, do we really need it to do more things?
Yes, we do.
Because if it's not,
I'm answering that question for you.
If it's not, changing the bed and doing the laundry, and I don't want to know from nothing about it.
Yeah.
It might next. You never
It
know.
could very
But you
well.
see, I think technology doesn't have to be invasive. I think at some point we probably need to learn the discipline of just not being slave to the technology.
Well, I think it's wonderful to have the option
Absolutely.
not to.
Yes. Sure.
And also, this has driven down cost. I mean, I'm sure that
yes.
for the R&D for this is astronomically
It's
expensive.
very, very expensive.
But once you get over that initial investment, I mean, the actual production is not that bad.
It's still pretty expensive.
It's still is,
I tell
okay.
you, look at CNSC, at the College of Nanoscale Science and Engineering. We had the first university-based 300 millimeter fabrication facility, which just kind of just explain a bit. These are large wafers. We were talking about packing more and more transistors. Now, if we can pack more transistors that have better functionality into a smaller area, we are increasing yield, and that will bring costs down and makes more powerful computers. And more powerful computer is not just our computer and it's not just our phone. It's better cars, probably like having more functionality in your car. Now we have GPS in the car, we have all sorts of things in the car. It's our microwave, it's in our health system that we use, it's the medicine, it's everything. I mean, it really impacts many things. So to your point, I think as we develop better and better technology and innovate, it probably will drive costs down because now it's impacting so many things. But the initial cost is very high. And that's what I think New York State and I have to admire what Governor Cuomo has done, because we need visionary researchers and innovators, but we really need visionary politicians.
Yes.
And he has been fantastic for the state and what he has done, the investment that he has done in research. I just look at CNSC and the type of investment that New York State has done and his vision.
Yeah, they're beautiful buildings over there.
It is
I happened to, have you taken a tour,
I
Lisa?
did, yeah.
I took a tour there too, but it was a few years back. and very, very impressive. And I know you've got a new one that's just gone up.
Yes, and probably another one coming after that soon. But what was, I mean, you really need the support to be able to do these, because we were talking about cost. Cost of one of these equipments is in millions, it's in tens of millions. So one company is really not able by itself to do this. So you bring in a consortium of companies, and then you have this public-private
Partnerships.
Yes. Which kind of drives innovation, which kind of takes us to why Tech Valley, why Capital Region? Because we are creating that environment, that it is not just the company doing just for the benefit of one company, but it's the entire food chain that just impacts job creation, it impacts cost for consumer, it impacts our lives in just really so
quality of
ways.
life. I mean,
Yes.
I really want to get into medicine, because I think that's something that everybody can really appreciate in terms of how this is impacting just the quality and the
effectiveness of treatments. Treatment
Can you
effectiveness.
talk
We
about
talked a
that?
little bit about cancer treatments.
And I think cancer is really a really good example, because it is something that it's so invasive and fast growing that and folks that have done chemotherapy before or have seen loved ones doing chemotherapy, they know that when that happens, it's not just a cancer cell dying. It impacts so many different functions of the body. So how nice it would be that if we could actually have smart medicine to just target the cancer cells. And now that's happening. And it's wonderful to see that in the past 12 years that the US government put money into this National Nanotechnology Initiative. Researchers have done so much innovation into creating medicine that's very targeted, using, let's say, gold nanoparticles. And again, it goes to what is so great about nanotechnology? Well, a substance like gold, when you go from large area into less than a few nanometer in dimension, it changes its properties. Now you can actually have nanomedicine that's activated by this gold to kind of just go to where the cancer cell is, and then now you can do laser excitation, or you can do external excitation. You just activate where you want these to be activated.
And be drawn to that location.
Yes.
Right? Because these nanoparticles are much smaller than the cancer cell.
They interact differently.
Okay.
Because they are functionalized, meaning that we were talking about medicine is about chemistry and understanding biology of the body. Now if you can engineer a type of medicine that deals with that chemistry of the interaction between the cell and the medicine itself, and is targeted. So the interaction, the chemistry is different with other cells than it is where the cancer resides. And then now you go do this external therapy, and that's where you target. I think it's just amazing. I think nanotechnology, we will see amazing changes in health-related fields because of this being very targeted. And as we know, I mean, that's a huge field. It's
Absolutely.
very costly.
Growing.
Yeah.
And if we can make things targeted, I think it would be wonderful. I always give to my middle school student, I say, well, you know what, you take an Advil and it just impacts so many different parts of your body. How nice it would be when you have a headache, you would actually just take a medicine to cure your headache, not give you a stomachache. But so medicine is a great example of why nanotechnology is so important.
I mean, I can barely wait 10 years from now what we're going to be talking about then. I mean, and what's been
Because it's only
available.
been 10 years, 10, 12 years since this was initiated. The funding for nanotechnology research was initiated.
Right. I mean, there are fields like chemistry and biology that one could argue that was always at the nano level, because they deal with, like in biology, you deal with DNA and all, those type of cells. That's really, it is at the very small molecular level. But with the emphasis that has been put on nanotechnology, I think we now have multidisciplinary researchers coming together, because maybe as a biologist, you couldn't really study the function of this thing, but also engineer how you could use it, and have an engineer to think about how to put it in the system. now you
and,
have
and business people.
Yes.
And intellectual property attorneys,
Yeah.
commercializing it into something that can really stir economic growth, development. People can be employed. It's a whole new industry.
Yes.
It opens up-
Nanotechnology is about interdisciplinary.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, you need the physicists and you need the engineers and you need the chemists and biologists to work together to make it
That
happen.
was going to be a question that I was curious about. You're a professor, so you're teaching in this field.
Yes.
What kind of students are you teaching, and what careers are they pursuing?
CNSC, again, I have to talk about CNSC because I am a member of CNSC in that it shows the interdisciplinary fields that you need to drive innovation. I am a physicist by training, and I did my postdoctoral fellowship in electrical engineering.
And you're a PhD, obviously.
Yes. And my colleague next door to me, he's a hardcore electrical engineer. And then next door is a chemist. Next door is a biologist. So you really need a combination of people that they are not divided by those, silos that they wouldn't talk to each other.
Yeah.
Now you have these researchers kind of just walking down the hall and they're talking about, okay, what's this next thing? Or I'm excited about this thing. What do you think? Oh, and then he or she will come up with a different way of looking at it, and that's what we need. So to answer your questions, we have students coming to CNSC with backgrounds in biology, math, physics, electrical engineering, mechanical engineering, economy. We have a nano-economic constellation. I mean, you really need all of them working together.
And when they're graduating, are they coming in at the graduate level and getting doctorates? And then what are they doing? Are they becoming research scientists, or where do they go? Where do they work?
So we have actually, I'm glad that you brought it up because we also started our undergraduate in nanoscience and nanoengineering a couple of years back. So these students, they can really exit at any point. They can get their undergraduate degree and be absorbed by industry. They can go into different disciplines and continue to get their master's degree or PhD degree. They can get, so at CNSC, they can get a degree in nanoscience, nanoengineering, nanobiology, and nanoeconomics. So where do they go? I mean, what do economists do? They will do, but they have a better view of the economy of nanotechnology because they have been there. They actually have to take courses in engineering and science.
Wow.
So you have more well-rounded, really, innovators.
Yeah. That's fantastic. And I know there's also like 2-year degrees in this,
Yes.
right? Because my nephew just graduated from SCC and he's working up at Global Foundries now from, I don't know what he's doing.
Yeah, I was going to say something because that's where I work at Schenectady County Community College, and we have a program there, and we're very excited about it. And it's a way for students who maybe don't want to make the commitment to a
Yes.
full-blown graduate program,
Yes.
but they want to work in the field, even to test the waters and see if they like it, and maybe go back to another baccalaureate program or a graduate program later.
Absolutely. I mean, Global Foundries is a really good example of a company that's doing manufacturing in addition to doing R&D in the same region. So now you have students that they get their 2-year degree, they get their associate degree, and now they can go into the field and work on high-tech equipments,
Yes.
learn to how to operate these equipments. And we really need this. We need students that they have the skill. I mean, if we think about all the outsourcing that has happened in the U.S. in the past few years, why has it happened? Because the same skill could be found somewhere else for cheap.
Yes.
Right.
But what is going to drive U.S. economy is innovation and is high skill workers. And the 2-year degree gives them what they need to be able to kind of go to these manufacturing that they do high technology. And
Yeah, and my nephew was a returning student. I mean, he's in his 30s. He's not like just out of college.
Right,
I mean,
right.
just out of high school. He's in his 30s. He was not happy with what he was doing, and he went back to school. So I think you're also seeing that where people are getting retrained. I just want to back up a little bit because we said we were going to talk about different applications, and we only talked really about medicine and
we are running
smartphones.
out of time.
We are running out of time. But can we say a little bit about the agricultural applications, just a sort of tiny bit so people understand?
About how
Like
nanotechnology
food production, yeah.
So not everybody likes doing nanotechnology in our food, but that can happen. You can actually you can manipulate how, let's say, fruits grow better food, better fruit, prettier food, more delicious food, and that's about the nutrient. So now if you can have a type of fertilizer that has used nanotechnology-based nanoparticles in there, that now they release the food at specific period of time, or that they have some substance that allows the plant to grow slower or faster. And here it is. Again, you're manipulating how that impacts it.
You can time the growth. That's amazing.
It is amazing.
And you
because
can have it if you want a tomato that's redder.
Yeah. It's amazing because it can impact. I mean, we're all worried about, well, maybe not all, but a lot of people are worried about the environment and how's that going to impact food. But to be able to do some of these things might counteract some of those concerns.
I'm glad that you mentioned about the sustainability and also about safety. Another thing that we are doing at CNSC is about kind of looking at nanoparticles and its interaction with the environment. How does it impact our environment?
Right.
I mean, when it goes into our water, how does it interact with our water? And I think that's a type of research that definitely needs to be done because material at that level, they have different properties than other type of material. But so far, so far the reports have been good. But we will see. I mean, active research needs to be done, and there are several U.S. funding agencies that are funding that type of work.
We're just about out of time, and I'm wondering, where could people learn more or come for a tour if they want? How can they find out about that?
We would love that opportunity.
Great.
I mean, I think one thing that we want to communicate definitely with our people in the state of New York and capital regions, that our doors are open. We love, especially for our young kids, to come and see the opportunity that they have. And this is really for them. If they want to end up doing that, this
is there a website
This is about
available?
getting excited about their future.
Absolutely.
Their world.
So cnsc.albany.edu, or they can just go to Albany website and then go to CNSE, that's College of Nanoscale Science and Engineering, and there it will have a contact information where they can get more information.
Well, we could talk about this for a long time, I promise you.
Maybe someone from Global Foundries will come and visit us.
That would be great.
and
Would you
join
come
us.
back?
That would be
maybe if we
exciting.
Absolutely, I would
did
love
that?
to.
Great.
Yeah, I would love
Well,
to.
thank you so much. And we really
My
want to
pleasure.
thank you for watching our Real Conversations. And we'll see you next time.
Thanks for watching.
Thank you.